or eating my lunch, but I'll just keep doing this as a labor of love. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
We have a guest speaker, Lieutenant Chris West.
Yes.
Before I get started here, Joanna has got a copy of speed study for the red light cameras.
Almost there. Sorry, guys. I thought I had the echo off, but I don't. My apologies. I don't know what it's
So just as a kind of an informer, this is a follow-up to the last visit I had here last quarter. And in the time that we've had in between there, part of the speed study is done and complete, and this is a printout of the first 3 locations. The schools are not done yet, but there is a draft with some results of the speed studies for proposed locations for a hospital system, and then 2 parks locations for speed cameras. If you want to move to page 5, Joanna. So page 5, this is a breakdown of the Wards Lake Park proposed location. Park cameras can only be operational during the hours that the park is actually open. So this is they put cameras out which captured violators for speed 24/7 on these particular days. But then they went back and they pulled the data from 6:30 a.m. to 6 p.m., which right now is actually outside the park hours because of the hours of darkness. But this is just to kind of give us a representative sample of the violators. And it's kind of small, but you can kind of see over the course of 3 days, eastbound traffic for 2 lanes was monitored. Total volumes for eastbound on the 12th for the hours were 4,578 cars, of which roughly 480 of them were going at least 11 miles an hour over the speed limit. And then another 42 above and beyond that were going at least 22 miles an hour over, for a total of 522 violators that particular day. Now, and they do that basically, the cameras can capture 2 lanes in each direction. And we left them eastbound for 3 days, and then westbound, obviously, the majority of the traffic for that week was coming obviously westbound. What I will say is, these numbers, the rep I was talking to, she does this kind of stuff up down the West Coast for speed studies, and she basically said we have pretty profound numbers for speeders. And basically in her words, she didn't see numbers like this usually. So this particular speed zone, that's pretty staggering numbers for speeders, especially westbound people coming from Tacoma into the city of Lakewood. So, and that's just one day, but the number that she picked a work day, middle of the week, to kind of get a representative sample of that. So, obviously a system, the way it was explained to me is that there's an educational period for 30 days prior to the cameras going live, where there's signage and other things that we put out warning people about the impending cameras activation. And after activation, over a period of time, you can expect a 60 to 70% drop in violators and violations in any particular zone. So these numbers obviously would come down, but this is just a representative sample of what's going on right now. Joanna, can you move to the next page? The next is another park system that's proposed out along the stretch of Fort Slocum Park. She put Fort Slocum Hospital because initially there was a typo there, and she had typed in Western State Hospital as a location. So we'll have to change that on the final. But again, this is just a representative sample of a couple days of the week for 2 lanes in each direction. And again, the numbers are pretty high. There's a lot of traffic through there, and some of the highest speeds actually that she saw were along the stretch westbound. She was talking about the camera was grabbing numbers in the 70s, 80s, and 90s along that stretch. We don't know, and I don't know yet what time of the day that was. But again, we're seeing some pretty profound numbers along that stretch of road. It's a raceway for everybody that knows this town and has been here for any length of time. They know that stretch along the park along the hospital, that can be pretty treacherous with speeders. So again, the daily averages for violators there coming eastbound was 614, and then that week-long stretch for westbound was 416 violators. And based upon these numbers, and then the hospital one, which we'll go to next, the goal of this obviously is traffic safety and to improve traffic safety in the region, but we also have to make sure that the camera systems are going to produce enough violations to pay for itself. I've been assured that these kind of numbers are going to make sure that the system is paid for itself. And it will probably create more activity actually than we've seen with these three in particular. Based on these violations, it's going to create more activity than we've seen with all the other 6 systems that we've had historically. If you can move to the St. Clair Hospital, these stats kind of were staggering for me, the amount of traffic that we see. Northbound on the 4th, you can see 10,900 cars pass through, and on both Wednesday and Thursday. Similar numbers on Sunday and Monday. This corridor sees 20,000 cars a day coming through there, and obviously putting a camera system up is probably going to focus on the northbound traffic. Coming southbound, there's a series of traffic signals that slow things down. So coming northbound is where probably realistically, if we were to put a camera system in, that would be where we would capture the violators, and that's where the entrance to the emergency room is, right on Bridgeport there coming northbound. And that's a 24-hour camera system because there is an emergency room that's open 24/7 in the hospital. So that system would remain operational. All of these systems would not lower the speed limit. It would keep it set at 35 because the goal is to try to get people to obey the posted speed limit, but not to lower the actual speeds. So as you can see, again, 424 daily average coming northbound. It drops considerably coming southbound to 127 daily average violators coming southbound. So the school zones are still pending. This system had to be shipped out of state to do another speed study for another jurisdiction that required all of the camera systems all at one time. So we anticipate the school systems to be the speed study be done by the end of December, when school gets out within the next 2 weeks. So hopefully first quarter I'll have a report back. And if you could move on to the next slide.
I have a question. Sorry,
Yeah.
This is Ken. Just looking at your numbers over a 24-hour period, the other ones were only 12 hours and were about half. So it seems to me that those numbers are consistent no matter where the cameras may be. Am I missing something there?
The numbers for the parks.
Yes, because you were doing it 12 hours and they were what, 6,000, 5,000? If you did 24 hours, would that change the numbers?
Right. No, the numbers would probably increase for the parks. The amount of vehicular traffic would probably, be similar as it would be for the Bridgeport corridor, as it would be for 84th and for Fort Steilacoom Park. All 3 of these corridors are major arterials for people coming into the town and coming through town and then leaving town. So it's all probably going to be similar. Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Yes, thank you. I just thought it wasn't necessarily that Steilacoom was so profound. The others seem to be pretty profound also, at least in my view.
There's sufficient violations happening here, I think on all 3 corridors really. But these are just projections that on Wards Lake Park, based on these results, the estimated number of violations without intervention would be weekly, monthly, and annually. These are the numbers that they pick up. Now, obviously, after the program starts, these numbers would come way down. But just as a perspective here, our CSO that handles the processing of these things through the courts handled roughly 26,000, I think, last year on the whole. These numbers are well above that. Some of them, Wards Lake Park, based on that kind of activity, we're talking 22,000 violations. We did 26,000 in a year for everything for all of our red lights in our schools last year. So if we added these systems in, even when they come down, it's going to add a significant amount of activity. What I will say also is that these are revenue sharing with the state. In looking into that, it's after all of our costs for cameras and fees and everything else. We split that revenue with the state. The state's half goes towards a traffic safety, traffic improvement fund for the state. So, but even with the 50% revenue share, there's going to be a significant uptick in the amount of expected activity from these 3 cameras in particular. So that's kind of where we're at right now. We're waiting on the finish of the school studies, school zones. The red light cameras are going to be, we can expect some efficiencies, some improvements on stats from efficiencies moving over in the system from Redflex for the red light camera systems. And then also the contract in which we are going to be using to implement this system was finalized through Milton, the city of Milton. So that was a competed RFP that we will be able to use to get the contract with Novoa Global. So that was the final step in this process. Milton, the city of Milton has an approved contract for both hospitals, parks, red lights, and schools, which is what we're going to be looking at. So, yes, sir.
I have a question for clarification. I think last time you talked about this, you said the state puts nothing into it, but they will receive 50% now of the revenues.
Yeah, for the parks and the hospitals, they get a revenue share of 50%, and that goes, it's not the state per se, it goes into a traffic safety fund. And I have the RCW somewhere. I didn't bring it with me. I looked into it, but it doesn't go into a general fund. It doesn't go into other initiatives. It's just for
No grants, no anything to fund it. The city funds it pretty much, or they get grants to do it.
No, actually, so this program, we pay, we meaning the city, we pay roughly in this ballpark $4,000 per month for the camera system, and that money, that $4,000, gets reimbursed to the city through the fees that we incur, or the fees that we take in from the violators, and they pay for that system. So it's supposed to be basically a revenue neutral program. So yes, we pay out the money, but we do get it back through the infractions that come in.
Well, thank you.
Why those 3 particular streets, those locations?
Those are the the 2 parks and the hospital. First of all, the hospital zones, you have to have a qualifying hospital with an emergency room that's open 24/7 in order to have a hospital system. It can't be a medical facility that's only open part-time of the day. And then the parks, they have to have appropriate lighting, crosswalks, and then it has the appropriate signage in order for it to be a qualifying location for a park system.
So presumably those 3 locations, people will quickly learn the speed cameras and slow down.
Correct.
What about the rest of the city?
Well, the rest of the city, we also focus on the red light cameras and school zones, along with other traffic safety initiatives in the city for motors and other traffic enforcement here. But this is just something that we set out in order to remind folks that are coming into the city that they need to mind their speed and obey the proper speed signals here. Yes.
I can't see what's up there, but a couple of things you said when you started, there was a number that was 10 miles an hour over whatever the target speed was, had some number of violations, and then over 20 with some number. Were any of the 20 counted in the 10, or was that a separate pile?
No, it's a separate, so roughly, if you look at ballpark, 10% of the vehicular traffic is at least 11 miles an hour and over. And then from that, another 10% of that 10% is 20 miles an hour and over. So 1% roughly is 20 miles an hour and over. So,
And I can understand the need to not go in the whole run of those, maybe, but we do think there are loss leaders in our world today, but what's the discriminator? What is the first setting gonna be if these get deployed? What margin over the speed limit or any margin?
we usually set them 11 miles an hour and over is generally the industry standard. We do have some say on that, on where the thresholds are set at. But generally 11 miles an hour and over for either a school zone or a hospital zone or a park zone is the industry standard, from what I understand.
So what tools do you have? If it starts looking like it's not gonna break even or make money, what's the adjustment made to make it?
It hasn't been a problem in this town at that threshold so far. Our Red Flex system is produced enough to pay for the system. It hasn't been an issue. This system is intuitive. That was one of the reasons why we're looking at going into this. And so it will weed out and put priority over the higher violators. And so it keeps obviously data. And part of the reason we went to this is because we can avoid that. We can go after the most egregious violators. And then the people that don't have as high speeds, we don't have to worry about those. So it is somewhat intuitive. Yes.
The units are rented, but you said they were rented, or we pay?
We pay, so I guess in essence, they're leased.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Do we have the capability to move them as needed?
No,
No, they just.
they have to be, they'll be yes and no, I should say. So the reason why we do the speed studies is to make sure that A, the systems are gonna pay for themselves with violators, and B, they're in locations that are critical arterials where there are traffic safety issues. And then if we look at a reason for moving the camera system would be if it did not become productive and it was not paying for itself, in other words. But we haven't had that issue here. The only issue we've had is with some reliability issues with some of the systems. We currently have one system that's down with Red Flex. So, yes.
Do the officers generously allow us 11 miles over before they pull us over?
They all have, any officer has a certain amount of discretion. So, and when I say that they're set at 11 miles an hour as industry standard, that's kind of an estimate. It's pretty staggering the speeds that are out there with people that are driving. So again, I think we could set them at 11 and I don't think we would have an issue. So.
Does that, free any traffic officers to patrol other areas, to enforce speeds in other areas?
Any enforcement is good. Any work that we can take off of an officer in this regard is good. This is just a more fair system. It's just there. You drive by and if you're speeding, it captures your license plate on your car and it sends the ticket through. It takes the burden off of officers having to go out and make face-to-face contacts. There's less risk involved for the officers. Certainly less possibility for, confrontations and arguments with the motor public. It is just a more fair system. But the reality is that there isn't enough money put them in every intersection, and I don't think there's a desire to do that. We want to pick the most active locations where it makes most sense to cut down on the activity and the really serious accidents that we see, which we do see on Bridgeport and Silicon.
Does it, in a practical sense, does it allow the officers to be moved to more residential?
Sure, it's certainly easier to put our motors officers running radar in residential areas. And to do that, this takes some of that burden off, but it doesn't take their burden away from actually going out and also doing enforcement in that area. So this is just another tool.
What happens if someone is speeding and that is captured in the system, but they also pulled over. Is that a possibility? If someone's in the area and
They get pulled over down the street, that'll be a separate violation.
what if it's the same, what if an officer just happens to be there and there is an excessive?
I don't know that that would be,
Or would they not?
they're not gonna probably run radar right where that camera's at.
Okay,
And the camera is gonna picture, or is gonna, the camera systems, just like they are now, capture the speed at a given location every time.
what if there was a secondary offense? What if there was another reason? I mean, I would hope that they would be pulled over. If there was another reason to pull them over besides speeding? Would that?
I guess I don't really,
So,
if down the road, or like if they had a malfunctioning piece of equipment on their car and they're pulled over down the road, the officer would not know. The officers don't know that there has been, a camera photo enforcement.
they wouldn't know.
They would not know. No, you'd have to have access to the system to go and research whether or not they were actually ticketed in the system. And our officers don't have access to that.
So could one of the cameras be relocated to an area that had high speed, like, for example, from west of Bridgeport up to whatever that next stoplight is on the street there is? It seems to be an area where people like to, I guess, practice to go by the park, I guess. So could a camera be put up in that area, or does that not meet the criteria?
We're trying, well, Bridgeport, the sector on Bridgeport that we're focusing on is the hospital. And by statute, you can only put automated enforcement cameras in school zones, red light camera systems, parks and hospitals. So you can't just indiscriminately pick a location because there's a lot of speeders and put them there. So there has to be a qualifying location, I guess if you want to call it that, a hospital, park, or a school zone or red light camera system, put them in. So you can't just put them anywhere.
How close does it have to be within a block?
The statute specifies how close it has to be. It's a matter of hundreds of yards, I believe. But it has to be within so many yards of a sidewalk, a crosswalk, etc. Signage.
Red light cameras can be anyplace.
At a red light, yes. At a red light of our choosing, yes. Yes,
Do we also look at other parks like American Lake Park or Harry Todd Park? Is there speeding concerns in front of those?
they've done some recent improvements on the roadways there to try to combat that. And we haven't seen, while we have seen speeding, we don't see the racing and things like that down there in North American Lake Park, because of the roundabouts and improvements down there. There certainly are some isolated incidents down there, but not to the levels that we see on 84th Street near Wards Lake Park and Stoughton Boulevard. So,
Any more questions? Okay.
all right, thank you. I'll be back again after the first of the year, let you know how things go with the schools. So,
Great, city council liaison, Preston.
Hello. Just a couple announcements. This Saturday, we're having the holiday parade, right at Park Lodge, in Gold City Hall, from 4:30 to about 5:30. And the tree lighting happens at the end of it, so it'll be exciting. Hopefully the weather is not too rainy. The following Saturday, there is a holiday 5K at Fort Phillip Park that is collaboration between the city and the Lakes High School Cross Country Booster Club. So encourage folks to come out to that as well. And then lately, the city council has been focused on talking about public safety in our agenda for our state legislators. And really, it's down to two things. We want to encourage some change in what's being allowed for vehicle pursuits to allow our officers to pursue in cases of stolen vehicles, which is not currently permitted. So we're pushing our state, county, and federal folks around that. And the other part is around our officers' ability to communicate with juveniles, because as it is right now, as I understand, there is hardly any conversation you're even allowed to have when talking to juveniles that have been pulled over in our city. So we're pushing to allow more conversations there in addition to the vehicular pursuits. I think that's all I have. Any questions?
With, do we have any feedback from our local legislators as far as support for these?
We're meeting with them next week. We had a special council meeting with both our state and then the following day with the county ones. Get more feedback on that, so we can talk about that at our next session. Or I think it will be open to the public for people to listen as well.
That's gonna be advertised, so we get enough public to attend and show our legislators and service.
I'll have to check. It's next week, so I will make sure that that's communicated out so that there's information available to folks.
But, Monday night.
No, I think it's midweek. I think Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
Any more questions? West Pierce Fire and Rescue.
Thank you. Looking at our calls for the month, nothing extraordinary, nothing that's a real standout event, which is always good news. Announcements for us, and that's Tuesday, down here at Station 21, Silicon, we're having Santa Station. So even adults can come get their picture taken, it's a lot of fun, we'll be there. And then if, we're also doing it on Thursday, the 14th, both are at 5:30 up at Station 31 University Place. So it's a fun time of the year. We enjoy give back to the community. We have a bunch of shopping going on for our families that we adopt here. So yeah, definitely come out to the station. We usually have cocoa, Santa, victory, good time.
Did you say that was Tuesday and Thursday?
Tuesday at Station 21, and then Thursday at Station 31 up in University. 21 is here on Silicon.
Lakewood Police Department comments.
All right, so I'm gonna be your rep from the police department, going forward, and that's just kind of an alignment between myself and the chief and divvying up duties. Also, since emergency management falls under me, then that's kind of a good tie into, in terms of a broader public safety, coverage there, so. But he's more than willing to come back whenever you want him, so, you know, we can certainly have him back, whenever, once, twice a year, or whatever you wanted to. As far as the police department hiring is, well, we're beginning to taper off. Here very shortly, we'll hit, actually 5 over our, actual budgeted, amount. We were authorized by the council to go 5, or actually 10 over, but we're stopping at 5 just to reassess. We've got a couple out on military leave and so on, but that will take us to 101 commissions. Some of those, obviously, new hires are still in training. It's going to be some time before they're out on the street, fully fledged. But and that 5 over hire is to offset the number of retirements that we have. So because it does take so long to get an officer from hire through the academy and training, they give us that buffer through there. So we're doing well there, because I think most departments, when you look at them, they have a lot of vacancies and are putting a lot of money into bonuses and that sort of thing. We've been able to hit our numbers without going to that extreme. Otherwise, juvenile crime is still one of our top concerns in the city, and that's primarily around vehicle theft and armed robberies. And that's concerning. It's been a trend, it's kind of a trend nationwide. We're not immune from that. Been working with the school district and actually the youth council on trying to get some different ideas. One of the things that we do now is that when we come across a juvenile offender who, you know, is out late at night, or we don't think he's in school, that kind of thing, we'll refer them to the school district's truancy program, just so we have that line of communication, and then their program can pick it up, you know, from there. And then we're looking at some long-term strategies with the youth council or some of our community collaborators Lakewood's Choice, Lakewood's Promise, and some others, for some different strategies there. And then, and on that topic, I mean, we not only is there an impact to the community in terms of the crime and getting your car stolen and the robberies and that kind of thing, it's having some really tragic consequences. You know, we had a 16-year-old killed down in Tillicum earlier in the year. We had a semi-truck driver killed in a stolen car crashing. We had a car full of juveniles in a stolen car with fully automatic weapons and extended magazines, flee into the Flood Creek swamp. One of them refused to come out and sadly passed away. We think from hypothermia. We don't have the Amy's ruling on that yet. And that's part of our concern, is that the kids themselves are putting themselves in danger that I don't think they understand when they're driving around at high speeds in cars and with guns and that kind of thing. And, you know, they're not making the best decisions, and they're putting themselves at risk. Here very soon, we're going to be starting our holiday shopping emphasis. So we're going to have extra marked units and bike patrols in Lakewood Town Center and some of the surrounding businesses around the 100th and Bridgeport corridor there. It's been pretty effective in the past years. And then on the emergency management side, we've just been monitoring the flooding because the rain coming out the roof now. That's supposed to taper off tonight, and then hit us again Saturday night. So after the Santa parade, hopefully. Luckily, Lakewood's on fairly high ground, although you can see some or common areas that the stormwater collects. And a lot of those systems don't feed. They feed into catchments, but they don't have an outlet. It just has to evaporate or soak. That would method soaks in the ground. So once they get full, they have to actually go and vacuum them out, which they've been doing. So Public Works has been busy. We're part of the West Pierce Emergency Management Coalition now, and so this Friday we're actually having a tabletop exercise on a wildland fire in between University Place and Lakewood. So we want to kind of build up what we saw last summer, unfortunately, but now I want to look at doing it across 2 jurisdictions. And how would that look? How would we coordinate firefighting? A little bit easier because it's 1 department, but now we've got 2 departments, police departments doing evacuations and that kind of thing, public messaging and that sort of thing. And then on the public messaging front, did you make it to Co-Red yesterday morning?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just checking. So we've been building out, we have Code Red as our emergency messaging system, and we've been adding functionality to it. So we can now do, anybody that signs up for it, and then we can do landline phones. We can draw a circle on a map or a polygon or whatever, and any landline phone that is installed, we can hit those. And then we finally got approval, and we got our digital certificates from FEMA to do the emergency wireless alerts. So those are the ones, those annoying, like the Amber Alerts you get on your phone and it starts shaking and vibrating and everything. And those will hit any wireless phone that's within that polygon that we draw with our message. So one last little technical glitch our vendor is trying to figure out, but we will have that functionality anywhere in West Pierce, really, because the other cities have gone into. But so that would be great, particularly with like I-5 going through our jurisdiction. We don't have local people that may have signed up for our system, so that way we can alert people. And you think of the fire at Fort Stoughton Park, you have visitors, college students going out to the college. It doesn't matter if they know the area or signed up, we can hit their cell phone. So that's going to be a very powerful tool for us. And that's all I got.
Any questions?
What about the results from fall elections? Any final results?
I am working on those. The only thing that they've seen, the money is still pouring in, which is fabulous. I know that on the day of, we counted the money the next morning. So just what we got just on the 29th, not counting everything that had come into EFN already. Let me find that, take a little picture of it. We were at $8,889 and Oh, no, sorry, I got another $100 thrown in, so it was $8,989.07, just on the 29th. And they have money still coming in to get that. So that is still adding, but I tried to get an answer tonight beforehand, and she seemed pretty sure that we were at, here we go, 3,600 pounds for food. Which is, I know, lower than usual, but the money was higher than usual. I think people were realizing, which I think is fabulous. I think people are realizing that EFN can stretch it further than we can. And so they were just choosing to give it that way, which is fabulous because it actually ends up serving more. So
When do we
It's good.
stop collecting?
they picked up all the bins, so that they picked up all of the food bins at all of the locations on Monday. It doesn't mean some won't still trickle in, but as for the money, that's gonna continue throughout the month. It might even go into January, Michelle said. So we'll be pretty good. I think we should be pretty proud of ourselves for that.
Thank you. Youth council comment. So with the start of our youth council year, there were a lot more of us and we were split into committees. So all of us are gonna be doing different things, like there's our group who's in this committee, which I'll talk about in a second, and then I'll let Caitlin talk about. Her voice isn't good, but she's in the media committee. And they're focusing on like advertising for the youth and stuff involved with the youth. Her voice is not good. But basically, for our group, because of the meeting we had with Mr. Ingrid and the principal from Bradley Lake, I think.
Beverly Academy?
Yes, so because of discussion from them, our committee came up with the idea to make a long-term goal that will be supporting the youth in Lakewood and short-term goals. So we really wanted to center ourselves on community events for the youth and then safe spaces. So for safe spaces, we wanted to create more areas that people in the Lakewood youth could go to. Because honestly, we don't have a lot of that. Like, I mean, we have like the YMCA and we used to have the library, but now we just don't have any areas that we can really go to that is like safe and where we don't have to like spend money. So there's that we're trying to work on, and you know, we support from the adults for that, but it's just a lot of planning that we have to think, like, we have to think about how we're gonna advertise that and then how we're gonna get fundraising. And then for community events, we're thinking of events for the youth, more events that are directed towards them, but we're still working on it. I think by the next meeting, we can have a presentation and go into more depth. We just have some ideas right now. Thank you.
I have a question about, the safe places. Have you guys, brainstormed or have an idea of a place in mind?
Not exactly. We tried to talk to some people, but they said it's really difficult to manage around that because they have to, you know, find like a building and then like get access to that. So we were kind of put on a little end right there.
Do you guys know like the parameters or like what does a building or a company need to be able to meet a safe place expectation?
No, we haven't really discussed that. I think as long as we're under the Lakewood Council and as long as they're supporting like the building that we would be going to, that would really be what we do. What about the community center? Right down the street.
The senior center?
Is it just the community center?
And that's what we call it. I don't know if that's all.
Yeah, it's owned by the county, has some building issues with it. So I know we're not,
I say, we're not even there.
yeah, 'cause we used to run our senior housing program or senior programs out of it, renting from the county. Now we're doing our senior programs from City Hall. So yeah, I don't know the status of it. I do know that it is on that.
Just so that you know, there are library plans that have come to the city. And it's early development, but various plans. Fortunately, that was a big loss. For the community. And it is centrally located beside the. So just, you might want to ask about that so you can be aware of what the design is. Maybe be involved.
Yeah, I'll expand on a little bit too. So the interim library is supposed to break ground, I think, the first part of 2024. And it's right next to Park Lodge Elementary. So that corner there. So that's a step in the right direction, but we really need a long-term library to serve our whole community, not just you. It's also on our agenda of the city council to look at a multi-generational community space as we look at our future plans in areas like the town center. To have something like that, because it is a need in our community for everyone. So we're keeping an eye on it, and we hear you. So we'll make sure we're engaged with our youth council to come up with plans for that.
If we talk about maybe contacting the banks and credit as being a safe place, they may not be able to supply all that stuff, but if somebody needs to be in a safe place quick, there's lots of them. And then if there was they could remove the facility and maybe would have more resources, but might be an idea because they're everywhere.
To add on to what you were saying, we're also thinking for the advertising aspect, we're thinking of creating like a website that can hold a bunch of like resources or like, you know, like you're saying, like direct safe spaces or like things for wellness or things for like just overall for the youth, like job opportunities in Lakewood, and then create a website that could be like connected to like the Cobra Park page or like maybe even like the Lakewood's page. I don't know if Lakewood has a page, but like a type of website that Lakewood youth could go to. Yeah.
I know there's a few nonprofits in the area too. Ross is building a hygiene center and they have a community center. So, I mean, that would be one place to reach out to and ask about a safe place. And then, you know, like there's both Sparks in the area, you know, food for thought. I also manage a bank, and so bringing that up, and that's something that if you want to have like a off-time discuss, I'd be able to do. Any more questions?
A good topic for community engagement specialists.
Unfinished business. Martin.
Well, it's perfect segue into the neighborhood association roadmap.
Yes.
We've been, one of the tasks that the council has asked us to do was kind of work to see if we can get our neighborhood associations kind of re-engaged and reinvigorated. But we've been kind of on pause, waiting for you.
Yeah, so folks who don't know me, my name is Chris Davis. I'm the Neighborhood Connections Programs Coordinator. New position with the city, so pretty much my role is to really get community, like my community really more engaged with the city. So one of the big things has been over the neighborhood association. So because of COVID, a lot of them have kind of dropped off. And some people haven't really been attending. So a lot of my big goals have been this first that I've been attending like 3 or 4 so far. Just to see whether like where things might be lacking, and then kind of seeing how can we revamp some of the other ones that are kind of have been in. For me, kind of like some of the things I've seen and seen is kind of like kind of stuff I've been seeing is kind of like a lot of, I would love to have more youth at those meetings, kind of association meetings. I would love to have that. Have like more conversations, not just public safety, but other things that might be involved in the neighborhood, so maybe having different type of events, to bring like neighbors together. A main thing I've been working with is with a nonprofit called Lakewood United. We're planning to do like neighborhood specific events, interest events, to start getting those conversations back up around starting a neighborhood association back in those areas. So in Springbrook, in some of these other neighborhoods, to be kind of like, okay, what interests, what ideas do folks want to focus on in their neighborhood base, and like starting those conversations, hopefully getting them from this. That's kind of where I'm at now. I don't know what you all have been working on. I've only been here, I've only been with the city for like a month now. So that's my start.
Did you have any timelines on goals and on where we're driving?
Yeah, for me, so right now, I'm kind of just like gathering information. I'm meeting with Mike Miller, the officer here, that I guess used to do a lot of the work with the neighborhood association. So right now, I'm feeling kind of like near the end of the year, I'm just gathering information on like what's currently the status. And then in the new year, I'm going to be focusing on starting up those meetings and interest meetings within neighborhoods, just to see like what focus to do in each neighborhood, what focus to build on that. And that's kind of between, I have a whole thing right now. I'd like to present at the council in March. So, so I have a whole timeline written out that I can send out. But pretty much it's in the start of the in January, I really want to start those like interest meetings, to kind of see where folks, like what is people in their neighborhood, how can what building up, kind of just like getting that more community building type thing.
You know, one of the things that was brought up, by the members, is it seemed like the neighborhood associations were tied to the police jurisdiction maps. It may be relooking at, that would redistribute the neighborhood associations, not necessarily tied to those existing maps.
Yeah, that's a big thing. I know I've heard a lot of people like this. I know public safety is a big thing within the neighborhood association, and those seeing those tied together. So I'm hoping that yes, that connection is still happening, but also can expand and talk to other issues and things going on in neighborhoods that can work on in the neighborhood association.
I've been thinking about it and participating in North Lakewood ever since they restarted up. Probably one of the suggestions would be to separate the Oak Brook area out of the rest of the area. It's divided up somehow. Oak Brook is a pretty cohesive group. I think there's 2 or 3 HOAs in them. And numerous times I've talked to whoever's kind of been the leader of it. Don't forget, there's a lot of other neighborhoods included, and they seem to not do that. And I can kind of understand. I'm not really complaining. They participate in a lot of different stuff in their community. So it might be something to look at, is to make them a separate entity from the other neighborhoods. But I know that some of the people that are from the outside that have participated kind of felt like they were the lost child, which is kind of wandered in. So,
And Assistant Chief Umberg, when the business public safety survey, I know that Chief was, I think Chief, with the city council kind of working together to possibly come up with. The chief had some ideas on where he wanted to go with the survey. Okay. Did I understand that correctly?
So,
Okay.
there were 3,000 public surveys sent out, I think, in the past week, so random members of our community. So that is in what right now.
Is that the community or was that for the business side?
I think that's for the community, not for the business side. But we would have to check and find out what is in work between the chief and the city manager in terms of other survey stuff. I I didn't receive one of the survey, but I don't know if others here know what's on them.
Yeah, because I know there was some discussion on whether we wanted this business survey more for city council's use as far as the status versus what the chief was looking for more actionable items for the department.
Right. Yeah, it's probably a separate thing than I'm thinking. So,
Okay.
yeah. More to come on that.
So, yeah, I'll have to check with the chief. I know just in our discussion, that was the only thing that you mentioned was, you know, you want more actionable items, kind of thing. So I don't know. It's been a while since I've been here. You all have drafted any questions or gotten that far along or? Okay.
One other thing that came up was discussion on exactly what the council wanted us to do. We were kind of all over the ballpark as far as historic impressions from the business community and, you know, what you would like us to do moving forward. So what is the focus that the council wants to place on it?
I thought I recalled them talk about more, community development and business comments. For which the public safety advisory committee, that's what was really asking, we're looking forward to.
And then our direct meeting with the city council, we had a good meeting with the full council. We kind of reviewed our 2023 work group items. The one big thing that I can recall the council wanting us to look at was, again, with our community liaison, is getting more citizen involvement, looking and trying to for the county and for the state, more citizen voices on how public safety affects them carries a lot more weight. And so getting more of that involvement. So I think the community, the neighborhood associations, and anything else that the committee can think of to try to get that message out to the community, to bring their voice to our legislators.
More voices the better. Right?
Yes. They're the constituents.
Okay, and then the 2024 plan. Yeah.
This kind of, let's just throw this out, it's kind of maybe not the right place, but I attended the city's open house on the ADU, been a month ago, I guess. And I had some concerns and some things that I'd like to bring up and talk about with the one aspect that came up, and it was a lot worse than I had realized, was the safety issues that ADUs are going to cause in some neighborhoods especially. And so I think in the future, this committee probably there again, good citizen involvement. These ADUs are going to be everywhere. And in our particular instance, we live in an HOA, we own the sewers in there, all the power's underground. So if everybody in that development decided to put, and we're in an area where you can have 4 ADUs in the backyard. If they did that, who's gonna pick up the cost for increasing the sewer, water supply, electrical supply, because that's all set already. And so those are issues about who's gonna pay for that. Secondly is, we have a trouble now, our streets are just wide enough, barely, for 2 cars to park alongside each other. And if they do, emergency vehicles cannot get in. It's a constant issue for us to, if they're only allowed to park on one side of the street, we're constantly having, people have parties, and next thing you know, if there's an emergency in our neighborhood, it could happen. And so that's going to be a huge issue in the city of Lakewood, because that's going to happen all over. We've got lots of narrow streets out there. And so I think there's going to, as this rolls on, there's going to be issues. Right now, apparent from what I understand, is HOAs and people that have CC&Rs in neighborhood are exempt if you're a single family Valent, that there is a move amongst a bunch of legislators to bring up legislation this year that will remove that. That won't be a way to stop it. And so, again, I just think that probably that's something that we're gonna keep an ear to, and we very well may be taking some of those issues on as safety issues.
For sure, and that's gonna be one of the priorities for planning commission, as they launch in the next year is all those considerations.
It was kind of a shame at the open house because the issue was the city has to comply with the state mandate. And that was the issue, and they were trying to get information on what this is kind of how we're gonna meet it. And, the audience really didn't grasp that.
Yeah. Driven by the state. We can't say no, right? But we have to find.
The lady in the back who kept yelling, she couldn't hear, and they asked her to move down and forward, the sound was blaring, and she refused to move down, and then the lady that they're mad at the city, they cut down some trees and haven't replaced them yet. And those weren't even.
Yeah.
And I think the city probably didn't do a really good job of informing the public of what was going to transpire. And I think they should have made it a little more explicit that this is what we plan to do to comply with the regulations of the state.
Right.
And it's not something we just sat in the back room and dreamed up, and here it is. So.
That makes sense. I did learn recently from our planning department that, and I didn't realize this, that there is it is illegal to park along the streets in Lakewood. You have to have actual parking spots to park in. And I don't know if you agree with that as the police department, but on-street parking apparently is not a thing in Lakewood, even though everyone does it. So that's something that enforcement could help with, that to enable emergency vehicles to get through, right?
Yeah, but, well, I keep going back on it. So we've got 115 homes in that development.
Right.
So that's quite a few cars and stuff, but they're all parking in drivers. So if you add just 30 ADUs in there,
right,
that's a minimum of 30 more cars. Where in the heck are we gonna put them?
Right. It's a legitimate concern.
And so now we've developed a safety issue that we'd be fighting for the next 100 years.
That makes me wonder what's the pathway to regulation? So then, right now, we hear from the state that this many square feet of lot should be allowed and ultimately encouraged to have this many ADUs. Is there something that goes along with that one that requires this much parking?
So part of the law shows how much is, we cannot dictate more than one parking spot required for less than 6,000 square foot lot, or more than 2 parking spots for greater than 6,000 square foot lot.
So there's some requirement.
There is, but it's, yeah, you could put 4 ADUs on a 6,000 square foot lot and only require 4 more parking spots, right? Which is not going to solve the problem. We're looking at options. Planning commission is going to be taking that on, including paid on-street parking, right? Maybe that's the solution.
I think when I'm in that same development, even if that formula says that, there's nowhere to put the 4 that are being required.
Right.
And as we've seen, like when Walmart came up years ago and some others, we had to put traffic lights and traffic and exit the area.
Right.
We have one exit. And it's good right on the Lakewood Boulevard. You don't have to get out unless you take lunch.
Right.
And ask for a red light to be put there.
And maybe there's creative ways to update our setback requirements or that sort of thing to limit the amount that can go onto a lot, but that's up to the planning commission to look at and make recommendations.
Well, the tragedy is the state legislature said and did this. I think I just had my truck, the headlight in it replaced when I was 30 years younger. I went in and did it, screwed the bulb in. Now they take the whole front of my truck off. I think the people that make these decisions ought to show they've got a year experience living with them.
The planning commission needs to remember utilities.
Right.
Because the utility system just is not built for anything other than single family homes. And we have a lot of ADUs and overloading bulk water.
I believe they've consulted with like the water district and the various power companies and county sewer to find out how much load they can take and how much info we can have without tipping things over.
Was that all something you guys were looking to put on the work plan, or was that just a sidestep? I just, I'm not confused. That was a lot, and I'm going, oh,
Yeah, I don't know if that's,
okay.
I don't know if that's something we ought to put in there as a watch kind of a thing, or kind of my question.
Okay. Well, that's what you guys are here to discuss now. So I've caught a couple of my mistakes. I apologize. It'll be the 2025 work plan. I think that was mostly because I can't believe that it's almost here. And then I'll replace, Assistant Chief Operations Manager Expansion, so he'll be sitting in for us for now. But I threw things out here. I just put it on here so it was on here, so I wouldn't forget that we wanted it on here. This is for you guys to say yes, no, vote, you know, if these are things you want to leave on. And then, of course, you will present it to council and hopefully get council's blessing as well. So now's your time. What do we want to put on here?
So was that artificial intelligence that gave 4 tractor truck day increase?
No, that was me because you guys said that you needed to prioritize that and actually make it happen this year. And in order for that to happen, it was going to have to be discussed at every meeting. So I helped you with that.
That's in addition to something else, hopefully.
Oh, yeah, that's why I said and, so
And.
whatever, well,
And.
that's the breakdown. Once you guys nail down what you want on it, I'll throw those in there. Thank you.
All right, Joy, you want to help me with that?
I see a question. Yes, Mark.
We forgot to put Clover Creek Crossing on there.
I didn't forget because there's nothing more that you guys can do. You can, so this is your work plan. This is what you guys are working on. The Clover Creek is something that the city is working on and that I'm gonna say the wrong one, Sound Transit.
Yeah.
That they're working on, that they have promised you that they kept on the radar. So it's something that you guys can go to city council and keep, you know, and keep bugging them, but it's nothing that you guys can work on anymore. There's no, so even having, because I know one of you said having them come and give a presentation, he would just tell you the same thing.
So
It's
does
on the,
the city council have a stand-in list of
A project. It's in work. I met with the city manager yesterday and he walked through the draft of it and that is on there. So, I will keep pushing for that to get higher priority. But,
3 years?
yeah,
It's a
so-
2025 issue. I mean,
I'd
it's
have to
out,
double
it's not something that happens.
Yeah, and I'm going to push to move that further up because I see it as a concern. It is funded by Sound Transit and then built by our city employees. So I want to make sure that we give it proper priority because it's a concern. It's a safety concern for people crossing.
and you can ask him every meeting about.
Yeah.
That's something you guys can work on. So I wasn't ask every meeting. It's just nothing to committee people. So,
Yeah, I drive over that crossing every day. I see it.
So I guess, do we want to start with just kind of going down what I've got here and you guys can vote whether you think that's something you should keep on or if you want to, you know, add something different or both? Does that work? I'll let Cameron lead us
Okay.
down.
Item 1, neighborhood association revitalization.
Well, first, I think we were tasked with that by the council, but I don't really think that we have a whole lot of option of removing it. It's just whether, you know, we get the direction that we need in order to do that, and we have certainly been waiting for Chris. And with his now arrival, I totally support that we keep this on our work plan.
I think that's accurate. I don't think you guys need to vote on that. Yeah, that was a correction.
And the same thing with number 2. We were given that task as, by the council. Again, we just need a little more guidance. As far as the focus area and the intent of the purpose, you know, why are we doing this and for what purpose? And is it purely a law enforcement kind of issue, or is it as far as business concerns, or did the council want it broadened? And I don't think that we've got a lot of clarity on that yet.
I think we hit a roadblock when it came to execution, like, how are we going, we had the questions, everything.
But then we got a new
But
chief.
how are we going?
We got a new police chief, and that kind of changed. And we did get a lot of support from the city as far as doing survey monkeys and things like that. It was, Ellen, I forget her name, but we met with her and she was very supportive. Yeah, and, so they are very much on board to help us with that, as long as we decide what we're doing.
That doesn't take a vote, that just stays on the, truck and tractor day, starting early.
Yeah, we've kind of followed the last 2 years that we really weren't able to put on an event. And part of it was planning participation. So again, why it's on there consistently is we just need to come up with a consensus of what we want to do, how we're going to execute it, and then putting the plan. So I would recommend to keep that on there. In the early spring, early summer, or late spring, early summer, so we have the time to put things together and come up with an event this year.
So is that a motion to keep
Make
this
a
on here?
motion to keep it on there.
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Is that any event or is that specifically for
We're doing it in spring. I don't know if we definitely wouldn't have time to do anything for Summerfest. It just wouldn't be enough planning and organization done, so I think that's what we were looking at, more in the fall.
I'm gonna need help from the people who sent me these ideas for the next two to explain them. I tried to, you squish it into a one sentence kind of thing, but so if you sent it, feel free to chime in and tell everybody what you're thinking.
The item, the first one is legislature involvement brainstorming.
I don't know if that may have been mine, and I think that may have been, through the, briefing to the full council is coming up with some ideas on trying to get, again, feedback from the community, feedback to the council, to the county, to the state. And that was just an idea, and I had nothing beyond that.
Would that kind of fall under the neighborhood association, or are these two separate things?
It's separate. Maybe we can start with getting more public comments in this venue. In this room.
So we want to.
I think we should pivot and just get more people.
So, sorry.
Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
like,
no.
I think this, I mean, and you've talked about this before, getting more people involved in just in that in general, and just even knowing and being educated and involved and like know how to send a letter or call someone, things like that.
So we do want to make a motion to leave that on there and have you guys vote on it as I've written it, or do you want me to change the way I've written it?
Do we just feel like more
Community
feedback
involvement
from
involved,
involved?
and we can incorporate public comment, getting more public comment in there.
And do you want me to community involvement with legislature?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
someone want to make a motion to move forward? 1 second.
Oh, second.
All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Thank you. And number 5, city's emergency management plan.
That came from me, and with John's assistance, the city's got a couple of emergency management plans that I'm aware of, probably has a lot more. One is what's called the comprehensive emergency management plan.
There's also continuity of government and continuity of operations plans. And I know before I started on this committee, this group, according to some historical commentaries I got, this group did actually review those plans at one time. I don't know how factual that was or not. But just as far as my interest in emergency management, maybe it's time to cycle some of that back through for our review. I don't know what kind, if I know it's up for review like every 5 years at the state level, but where are we at in that cycle? Could we facilitate that process as far as parceling segments of the plans out to people with areas of expertise that could possibly review and provide comment on all those plans? Because at one time, plans of that nature were on websites and were easily available. But I think that it's a very different environment now, and I don't see anything on the city sites that would give me access to those plans either.
So, yeah, there's a number of federal plans that are required. You mentioned a couple of those. And so we're also transitioning into the West Pierce Emergency Management Coalition. So the idea is to have one plan. So we just finished our comprehensive emergency management plan. And their emergency management coordinators are starting on the COOP and the COB, so the continuity of operations plan and the continuity of government plan. And so, and all of those plans, I'm sure about the COG, but all the other ones require public input. And so this would be an excellent venue to meet that requirement, or partially meet that requirement. Wouldn't be the only public outreach, but yeah, I mean, we could certainly present the plans and get your input.
So
Yeah, I'd love to have a review or summary of emergency management plans just for awareness.
is there a motion to move forward? I would move to leave it on and move forward as far as the review and facilitate the planning process. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor,
Right.
any opposed?
Just for my clarification, am I leaving exactly city management emergency plans?
That'll cover it, and anything, all in favor?
And Joanne, one of the thoughts that I had too, is I brought it up, I think at our last meeting, and I don't know if it'll be on our work plan for this year, is with the fires, the urban interface that we had this year. That's just not something that our side of the state is as familiar with as the eastern side. But looking at, I don't know if it's an outreach or an education on defensible spaces. I don't know if that would be is that part of the emergency management plans?
Part of our emergency management work, for starters, is public education on evacuation. We are not used to the level 1, 2, 3. That is Greek to most people on this side of the mountain. So we're starting with that. And then there are some other programs that we're looking at long term in terms of defensible space. And then that's just not something that we've ever thought we were going to have to deal with on the green side of the state. Kind of thing. And you look at Lakewood, that's a challenge. We got a lot of trees. But the evacuation will be starting, that public education campaign will be starting up in early spring.
That was included in the emergency plans. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that would fall
Okay.
under.
I've got a question about that too. Active shooter, schools or perceived shooter, that would fall somewhere in there too. And there's that school district, or is that police department, is that a combination of both?
That's police department. And so we train on that every year. We do 8 hours of training for every officer. So we do 2 training days a year, so we get the entire department through, which is unique. I don't think there's any other department in Pierce County that does that. They're lucky if they get once every couple of years. So we do that. So we train on our tactics and procedures with that. In coordination with the school district. The school district is required by law to have plans, and then they're required to follow, the command system ICS, which is that unified command, so when we show up for an incident, we work together.
So that's something to fall under that realm of emergency planning too.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have written plan per se, because it's more of a tactic and a procedure. Because it applies to anything, we had one at the apartment complex in Gravelly Lake, this year, could be a store. So the plans would be building specific, and then within the PD, it's, policy kind of procedure.
Okay, and then the topics, do we just need to agree that we're gonna talk about those things on these dates or?
A little bit, I guess maybe just make sure that you guys want to add anything else. Does anybody else have anything else they want to do? Is this good? Sounds like a lot. Okay, perfect. Then, yeah, tell me, on the, I threw them in order just for ease, but so 6.5 and 8.7. I can add the, throw the community involvement with legislature onto the 6.5 meeting. Does that work? Yeah. Okay. And then, sorry, let me write this down. Okay. And then throw, the city's emergency management plans on the 8.7, or did you want me to start that sooner? When is as soon as it would work for you? Us, I guess. For that.
I'd have to check and see where they're at with the plans. That would probably work, unless the plans are done sooner than that. I think they were trying to get it done by March.
Serena,
Yeah.
and we can,
Yeah.
well, and part of that too, is we could have Serena get personnel.
Right.
Yes, we have, emergency management coordinators, Chief McCurdy was over that division, which she comes right. But yeah, we could find out where they're at, and they'd be more than happy to get out and share where they're at.
So I will put it on 8.7, and then if we need to shuffle, we certainly can, if it becomes available sooner. I mean, this isn't in stone, so that we know we have a plan. That work?
Yeah, well, I mean, so normally we write the plan, we submit it for public comment,
Okay.
and then we make any changes, and then we finalize the plan.
So then you guys will let us know?
Yeah, so I just don't want to get the plan done in April and have to wait till August for public. It'll just delay everything.
So,
I think tentative would be fine, but we.
right, and then, yeah, and as soon as you guys let me know, I'll make sure I'll throw that on the agenda and we'll talk with them.
And I don't think it'll be finished in just one session. These are pretty healthy.
Right, agreed. But at least that would.
Yeah, that's my only warning. I mean, the comprehensive emergency management plan, it's, 150 to 300 pages. Your hazard mitigation plan is just an annex to the county's plan, but even just our annex is a couple hundred pages. So, I don't know in terms of your workload, and in meeting time, like you wouldn't have time to go through 200 pages in a meeting. We could certainly distribute it, and you could do electronic comments or that kind of thing. But yeah, we just want to balance your time, because otherwise that's going to suck up all of your time.
And we could do it like in a subcommittee kind of approach too, folks that are specifically interested in it. You could work with a handful of us that would be willing to dedicate a little additional time.
Yeah, and that's beyond me in terms of subcommittees from this committee, because I don't know that we do, that the city has that with any other. I'm more than open to it, but I don't know that that's.
Yeah, we do that with the public safety survey. We built about 4 of us, with some special interests that we came together and we met regularly, and that's where the work was done and reported back to the bigger group.
Can I, totally showing my ignorance here. So when they are done with the plans and they need to present them to you guys for the public comments, that you're gonna be, obviously we'll try to get it out for the meeting so you guys can look it over, but that's your chance to give your public comments to them for, maybe you should look at this, maybe you should change that. Am I accurate here? Like, this is what we think of this plan?
Well, and it can be done electronically, because for instance, we could put it out to the entire public. I mean, a lot of people don't pay attention and see it, but anybody can give comments. Some people might be very limited, some people might go through and a couple of red pens through the whole thing.
That's through you guys, not through here, so we wouldn't be doing that, for PSAC, but they could go to wherever you guys are posting it in public comment. All day long, right?
Well, I guess that's the open question of this. Yeah.
Right, to meet open, I think they have to. If you guys are posted somewhere else, then anybody can comment on it, but here it would have to be done where everybody can hear and. Right, so we wouldn't want to do that electronically. So the second part of my question is, if we're dealing with that, what is the subcommittee?
Well, I'm just saying it could be done. I'm not saying that that's going to be our approach, but we've just
And
done
then,
this.
like I said, just trying to understand what the process was.
Just that when we were assigned the public safety survey, the group essentially said, well, this needs a little more work. And that's when four of us raised our hands and we said, yeah, we'll go off and do more work. And we'll come back and report. And it was nothing more formal than that, if I recall. Mark, you? I mean, that's sort of, and Alan, that's sort of how we did it.
Does it have to be organized by you, though? Because we're not permitted to like discuss anything outside of these meetings or like do any other business.
It depends on the numbers of folks involved, I understand. A certain number, right?
For us would be 6, so it has to be under 6.
So we can informally get together and do work. And,
As long as we cannot make decisions. Gotta get her form, we can't make decisions, what we can do, review things and so forth, present. Requirements to the full committee.
Okay, so you guys would, sorry.
Or like present ideas. Like, let's say for emergency management, or let's say like a subcommittee of community relations, like those small little committee groups could come here and talk about the solutions or the ideas that they have and then you have a.
But then present to the full committee.
So you guys would read all 5 million pages and do that and say, this is what we should make our public comments, that this is what we think our public comments should be on that plan.
And Chief, you said it was coming out in March?
One of them, the COOP and the COG, they're staggered in years, so we're only working on one plan a year. We go in about a 5-year cycle.
Would it make more sense for it to be timely to possibly move that to the 4-3 meeting? So,
I think the idea was to put it on like 7 and then if it was available any sooner than we could switch.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, as soon as they let me know, I'll switch things around.
Yeah.
But am I following that that's what the plan would be for this? That's what the subcommittee would be for, it would be that the subcommittee would essentially.
we haven't decided on a subcommittee. I think once we get the plans in hand, maybe we'll be very equipped on how we're going to tackle it.
Okay.
So,
so as a discussion point, possibly April, and then possibly setting up subcommittees.
Another option, and this is open to public comment to anyone, so not just, this committee, and then we have to digest that and determine whether that's a valid, edit or not. And so it might be more efficient if we presented the plan. We can give you the highlights of the plan. You can look at it online, we'll post them online, and then you can issue your own public comments, or you could, I guess, have a committee at that point, but, we can certainly present the plan here, get your surface level feedback, and then you're more than willing to submit comments, on your own. And that we don't run into the quorum issue and all that.
Okay. That was.
All that satisfies your public
Yeah.
comment requirement, that's the point.
Yeah, and like the CEMP and hazard mitigation, we do a booth at the farmers market and some of our public events and stuff to help meet that public comment, as well as present to council too.
Do I need to ask about moving a motion for dates or are we good with proceed forward?
I think we're good.
How about special events?
I don't have a lot of dates, as you see. Try to get, I don't know if things have been set, so do you know if the joint study sessions have been set yet? Do I need to go?
I'm not sure.
Okay, I'll check it around. So I'll check on, I'll hammer these out as much as I can. Do you guys know when you're doing truck and tractor? For 24?
I think I just pulled it up, sorry, I think it's October 20th.
And I'll put that in there, at least as a placeholder, and I can fix it.
I think Summerfest and Truck and Tractor are already set.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, yeah, so I'll bug Brianna tomorrow and try to fill in that, the July date. And then, we haven't even hammered out our fallen officer date yet, so, but I put those in there as placeholders and then I can, adjust. That helps.
Reports from board members and staff.
Neighborhood associations. Oh, did you skip? New business, new business?
October 12th.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm all discombobulated. Sorry, guys. Yeah. The work plan does. Sorry, I think we skipped new business. That would be. This, and I think all we have under there was preview of next meeting, which we have just decided is going to be the neighborhood association revitalization plan and truckers after day. So we just decided that. There we go. And then reports, sorry. So yeah, anybody have any reports for their neighborhood association meetings? Boy, all of that today. All of that. They're talking, they're ignoring me. I don't blame them. I haven't shut up yet.
Neighborhood association,
What's that?
neighborhood association.
Yeah, I went to the last, North Lakewood Neighborhood Association and, Chris was, they introduced Chris and, they kind of reviewed what they did on first night and they talked about the ADUs a little bit.
There was Florida coming up. Isn't there a party coming up where you can?
Yeah, they're having a Christmas party. Just got that, when is it?
I want to think, I'm pulling my email, I thought it was the 13th. 100%.
It's on at least now.
It was the party, the holiday.
Yeah, so the HOAs are putting it on, both for HOAs.
Silicon Woodwork is active. Yeah, but I should ask Charles about it. He might know a lot more than we did, but they started to post on their Facebook again. They've got a new newsletter they put out in November, but I didn't have access to that. But they are again, they said, take it a step at a time is what they're going to bring it back online.
That was Silicon.
Yeah, they've been taking regular.
Silicon was working with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been going that. That holiday meetup, I think, is the 10th. Is that right?
They've been,
Or
they've planned to come to this until March.
Yeah.
They're planning, Tilton Woodward's planning on March. They're trying to get a group to go to March to the Christmas tree lighting this week. I don't know what to do.
We're adjourned.
Motion.
I'll get it.
Before we adjourn, I just have a thought a minute ago. Maybe the city council ought to think about putting up a booth at Summerfest, maybe the tractor pull with a representative from all the councils there, so that people can come by and say, well, a safety thing, you know, I had one of those, and what do you do?
from each of the boards and committees.
Yeah. You know, well, if it's 25,000 people walking by, at least one or two, maybe we can get some interest in participating or even make an application to be on the committee.
I heard you volunteering to be the first one. with that one.
I'll be at the booth if the city had said one.
I think that'd be a great venue also to solicit, for the community, hey, this is what we're looking for as well.
To be in partnership with our outreach through social media.
I wrote it down.
The topic for education.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Diane?
Oh, my goodness. there's so many more.
Aye.
Right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Lisa's fine with group, that's all.
I think of